In the summer of 1940, the fate of the world hung precariously in the skies over a small island nation. This was the Battle of Britain, the first major military campaign fought entirely by air forces. On one side, Nazi Germany's seemingly invincible Luftwaffe. On the other, Britain's outnumbered but resolute Royal Air Force. The stakes? Nothing less than the survival of Britain and the future of the free world. To truly grasp the desperation of this moment, we need to rewind to the spring of 1940. Hitler's Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War, had just torn through Western Europe. Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, and France had all fallen in rapid succession. By late June, France had surrendered, leaving Britain to stand alone against the might of the Third Reich. Hitler was confident that Britain, isolated and facing an overwhelming force, would quickly sue for peace. But he had underestimated the British people and their new Prime Minister, Winston Churchill. In a defiant speech that would echo through history, Churchill declared, "We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender." With Britain refusing to yield, Hitler turned to his Air Force chief, Hermann Göring. The plan was simple: destroy the Royal Air Force, achieve total air superiority, and then launch Operation Sea Lion, a full-scale seaborne invasion of Britain. Göring was arrogant, boasting that his Luftwaffe, with over 2,500 bombers and fighters, would crush the RAF in a matter of weeks. The RAF, by comparison, had less than half that number of frontline aircraft. The odds were grim. The battle is often seen in three distinct phases. The first began in July 1940. The Luftwaffe targeted British shipping convoys in the English Channel and coastal radar stations. Their aim was to lure the RAF into a war of attrition, wearing down their limited number of pilots and planes. But the British had a secret weapon, a game-changing technology: radar. Led by Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding, the RAF employed a sophisticated, integrated air defense system. The chain-home radar stations could detect German formations as they assembled over France. This gave RAF controllers precious time to vector their fighters to intercept the enemy, scrambling them only when and where they were needed most. This brilliant strategy conserved fuel, saved pilots from exhaustion, and prevented the RAF from being drawn into a trap. On August 13th, the second phase began with an escalation Göring called Ablertag, or Eagle Day. The Luftwaffe unleashed massive, coordinated daylight assaults on RAF airfields, command centers, and aircraft factories across southern England. The objective was to cripple the RAF's infrastructure, to smash its ability to fight back. The fighting was relentless and brutal. RAF pilots, many of them barely out of their teens, flew multiple missions a day, often outnumbered 6 or 7 to 1. The skies became a chaotic maze of dogfights, contrails, and falling aircraft. Airfields were cratered by bombs, hangars burned, and many brave pilots were lost. But the RAF did not break. A crucial element of this resilience was its international character. Pilots from across the Commonwealth Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and brave exiles from conquered nations like Poland and Czechoslovakia fought shoulder to shoulder with their British comrades. These pilots were exceptionally skilled and motivated, and their contribution was vital. Despite the ferocious onslaught, the radar system held, the airfields were repaired, and British factories worked around the clock to produce new Spitfires and Hurricanes. By the end of August, Göring was furious. The RAF was bloodied, but it was still flying. Frustrated by his lack of progress against military targets, Hitler made a fateful and cruel decision. On September 7th, the battle entered its third and most infamous phase, the Blitz. The Luftwaffe shifted its focus from the RAF to terror-bombing British cities, starting with London. The goal was no longer just military. It was to shatter the morale of the British people and force Churchill to the negotiating table. For 57 consecutive nights, the bombers came. London was engulfed in fire and destruction. Thousands of civilians were killed, and huge swathes of the city were reduced to rubble. But this tactic backfired spectacularly. Instead of breaking their spirit, the Blitz forged a powerful unity among the British people. Londoners displayed incredible resilience, taking shelter in the underground stations and emerging each morning with a defiant business as usual attitude. This shift in strategy also gave the RAF a critical breathing spell. With the Luftwaffe now focused on civilian targets, the battered airfields and factories had a chance to repair and re-equip. The pressure was temporarily lifted from fighter command, allowing them to rebuild their strength for the decisive moment that was to come. That moment arrived on September 15, 1940, a day now known as Battle of Britain Day. The Luftwaffe launched its largest and most concentrated daylight raid yet, throwing everything it had at London in a final, desperate attempt to break the RAF. Over 1,500 German aircraft were involved. In response, the RAF scrambled every available fighter. The skies over southeast England witnessed one of the largest and most significant air battles in history. By the end of the day, the results were clear. The Luftwaffe had suffered a crushing defeat, losing over 60 aircraft to the RAF's 26. The myth of Luftwaffe invincibility was shattered. The raid was a massive failure, and it marked a psychological turning point. 2 days later, on September 17th, Hitler quietly postponed Operation Sea Lion indefinitely. The threat of invasion had been thwarted. Though sporadic bombing continued, the Battle of Britain officially ended on October 31st. The cost had been high. The RAF had lost over 900 aircraft and 540 for pilots, but the Luftwaffe's losses were catastrophic. Over 1,700 aircraft destroyed and more than 2,600 aircrew killed or captured strategically. It was a decisive victory for Britain. The consequences were immense. It was Hitler's first major defeat of the war, proving that the Nazi war machine could be stopped. It ensured Britain's survival as a bastion of freedom and a crucial base for future Allied operations, including the D-Day landings that would ultimately lead to victory in Europe. In one of his most famous speeches, Winston Churchill immortalized the pilots who fought this incredible battle. "Never in the field of human conflict," he said, "was so much owed by so many to so few." Those words perfectly capture the legacy of the few, the brave pilots who, against all odds, defended their nation and, in doing so, saved the world from a darker future. Their courage and sacrifice remain a powerful symbol of resistance and a testament to the idea that even in the bleakest of times, a determined few can change the course of history. Thanks for watching. If you found this story of courage and resilience inspiring, please hit the like button and subscribe for more chapters from history. See you next time.